tell us a little more about GDM, gestational diabetes, and what is the state right now in our country and abroad, and how aware are women about what it is and what causes GDM, and what are the implications on mother and child?
See, what really happened in the GDM story goes like this. 35 years back, we used to maybe have, when we test one pregnant patient for her levels of sugar, if we do test it based on some indications that we had way back there, we may have had 1 or 2 patients in the whole year who have high sugars and who need to be referred to a diabetologist, a specialist. So we used to not bother too much, because 1 or 2 patients you can always refer and then get the right advice on that aspect of the rest of the pregnancy we are managing. But sugar management is from the concerned specialist. So we said that's not our forte, and let's not meddle with that. So let them do their job, and we will take care of the pregnancy part of it. But as the years evolved, there was a large study from Chennai who said you test all the women, and Asians have 11 times more incidence of having gestational diabetes, and the incidence is not a meager 1 or 2% that you think. It's about 12 to 14%. That was a Chennai study. And then when I looked into it and then I started talking about it in the forums, they said, oh, you South Indians, you are rice eaters, and oh, that is why maybe in Chennai it is so high, but in south of India it may be high. But no, this is not a problem in our part of the country, which is our part of the country, is our part of the world, because the country is so big. So they said, no, it is not. Then, the process evolved that we must ensure test every single pregnant woman in the country, and there are 30 million pregnancies every year. And when we do test them, it's called the universal testing with the glucose challenge, and we find every single year 4 to 5 million Indian women having high sugars in their pregnancy, and that's a large number. So we said we have 1,500 diabetologists, maybe 5,000 physicians, and in smaller towns there are none. So we have to take the responsibility for caring for the women with high sugars, and for the first time in the world, we collaborated with the World Diabetic Foundation and instituted a certification course for how to render an OB/GYN confident and competent, skill transfer, and empower her to deal with these patients, primarily for early detection, testing, the nutrition management, the lifestyle advice, the monitoring of sugars, and the oral tablets. Only the last few, who remain uncontrolled, who have to have the insulin, will then be referred to the specialist, and those numbers work. So several thousand, more than 20,000 obstetricians took this course. They all recognize that this is the need, and then we influence the government policy. And India is one of the South Asian countries serving as a role model for the recommendations of how a woman in pregnancy has to be tested and treated for high sugar. So that is, in the government recommendation, and other countries, we are happy to say they're adapting it and recognizing the value for it. So that is about gestational diabetes. And slowly, when the thought process evolved, we said women's health is nation's wealth, really, because if you don't handle her sugars, the baby should never know that mom has the sugars. You have to do whatever it takes to get her sugars to normal, so the baby is not growing in an environment of high sugars. If it grows in an environment of high sugars, it will be genetically programmed to become an early onset diabetes in its adult life and the childhood obesity. And it has long-term implications. Even these women will go on to type 2 diabetes. Just in, if she's 25, she's delivered today and nobody has even bothered to give her a long-term advice. By 28, she's a full-blown diabetic. It started in pregnancy and it has grown over her. And by the time she gets to 40, she either has a cardiovascular accident or with the complications of diabetes, etc. So how the intergenerational transfer. So then this now has become a very, very big and central issue for the government, for the globe, and to tackle the volumes of these many women progressing into a state of NCD, or non-communicable diseases as we call it. India is only second to China in the numbers of diabetic men and women that we have in our country, more than 100 million. it's an overwhelming number. And Sandhya, you can quite relate to the fact that every family now in India has one or two with high sugars. And just imagine the impact on their economies, because they have to get tested, they have to be treated long term, and the spends that they do, whether it's for groceries or their other kind of shopping, it's also a big medical list. So this is a real tsunami, and the sooner we tackle, the better it will be. And it has to start from the adolescent age, where the lifestyle changes have to, roll in and kickstart from that point, so that by the time they get to the reproductive age, they're of a proper weight and they're aware of these tests and they're aware of how they have to manage their diet. So hopefully, we will be gifting good health to the generation next if every mother in the future takes care of these aspects of high sugars and high BPs during her pregnancy, so that the children are programmed for the next generation in a better way. So this is a complex situation, but it can be explained quite simply to the population at large, so that their health is in their hands is something that they must be aware of. So even today, we are still struggling with remote areas not being able to reach the specialist doctor. But now, as you can see, the technology has come to our rescue, because the video consultations with the specialist for any or many such patients in the last mile can easily be offered. Their day-to-day diet counseling, motivation, whatever else you want to do with them, they want to send us the sugar reports at whatever frequency, everything can be handled through technology platform. So that is where we are seeing a hope for getting our control on this huge menace that is striking us hard.
And awareness in the community by and large, which you try to bridge that gap of awareness by digitization, which is great in itself. And also,
in some parts of the country, the women have started asking the doctors, you haven't tested my sugar in pregnancy, and that's awareness. So that is that demand generation is so crucial, because I think every girl, every woman should know what she should be asking for, even if the medical community as of now, because of time constraints and human resource constraints, there are some gaps in delivering the quality care. But if you are asked, then there is no looking back. They have to deliver.
Absolutely. Yes, you're empowering everybody, which is great. And